With AI's potential to make educators' lives easier and to support personalized language learning, it's no wonder it's become a hot topic in English language teaching. In fact, the number of studies focused on AI within English language teaching is growing rapidly. Within this evolving field, Gen AI has been presented as a creative partner, a support for lesson planning, an opportunity for increased practice, and so many more things we have yet to consider. But can we confidently say all of these claims of Gen AI's advantages are true? Only time and more research will tell. A common buzzword when working with ChatGPT, Perplexity, and similar Gen AI chatbots is the term prompt engineering. That is, the discipline of crafting prompts that will yield the best results. Several models for prompt engineering have been put forth, including the 5S model by AI for Education, the PARTS model from Google, the Result Role Action model, or RRA, and many others. A prompt model can help us to think about different details that might guide a prompt. But it can sometimes be time-consuming to create prompts using one of these models. And in my experience, even with prompt engineering, the output will almost certainly need some refinement. Instead of spending a lot of time trying to craft the perfect prompt, teachers can just start playing with Gen AI chatbots to explore the capabilities. Start with a question, review what the output says, and then refine the results. In this way, educators can tap into one of the most powerful parts of Gen AI, its ability to remember the conversation and fine-tune the output. Let's try this out. Imagine I want my students to do more collaborative work. I could start by asking, what are some collaborative activities I can do with my students? This generates a great initial list, but it is very general in nature. So I can refine the prompt a little by asking, which activities might be good for my English language class of 12 to 13-year-old students at a level of A1 on CEFR? By specifying the age and proficiency of my learners, I now see some activities that are more useful to my context. I can then ask for a lesson using one item on the list. Can you build out a lesson for my class on Guess the Word? In looking at this output, I notice the timing is not what I need, so I can ask for a refinement. Can you adjust the time so that this lesson takes no more than 25 minutes? After reviewing the updated lesson, I can continue to refine or ask for additional materials to help me in the lesson, such as a vocabulary list. In a fairly short period of time, I now have a lesson that I can use in my class. While not required, prompt models can potentially provide scaffolding for learners, especially those who are just starting to develop their language skills. One model created for language learners is the Tattooed Structured Prompt by TESOL educator Brent Warner, which includes 6 elements: task, actor, target, translation, objective, and output. An example of a prompt using the tattoo model is, I want to practice my conversational English. You are my speaking partner. I am a low intermediate learner of English, and we should speak only in English. Offer suggestions about my word choices and grammar. Provide me with questions or ideas to start the conversation, and keep it going. This prompt would set students up with what could be a meaningful practice opportunity. Regardless of whether we use a prompt model or not, the key element is to use our expertise to critically evaluate the output.
Because large language models are trained on massive sets of internet data, they can quickly generate ideas tailored to a specific classroom setting. This positions AI as a prime tool for content creation. After all, why work to develop materials if generative AI software can do it much faster? As in the previous example, AI chatbots can be used to generate ideas for classroom activities, build a full lesson plan, or even draft a course curriculum. A teacher might also use an AI chatbot to develop comprehension questions for a reading or other supporting materials. Let's say that I wanted to examine the classic Edgar Allan Poe short story, The Telltale Heart. When I ask the chatbot to create questions for a quiz, it generates results such as who is the narrator of The Telltale Heart? What evidence does the narrator provide to prove their sanity? I can even ask for open-ended questions to help facilitate classroom discussion. Within a few seconds, the chatbot produces questions like, describe the setting of the story, how does it contribute to the atmosphere, and what is the main conflict in the story? How does it unfold? Although we shouldn't take a chatbot's answers at face value, AI can create these questions much faster than we can and give us an initial creative boost.
As Gen AI chatbots are tailored to meet specific needs, their potential as creative thought partners increases. For example, when creating lessons, I might use Twee, which is specifically programmed to help English teachers build lessons and create materials for their classes. Or I might build my own personalized chatbot, where I choose what data sets it uses and set up the parameters for how it will respond. With increasing access to custom chatbots, our use of Gen AI becomes more specialized and possibly more productive.
AI also shows promising potential for differentiating or personalizing instruction. For example, when I queried generative AI about Saturn's moon Titan, the results ran to several hundred words. So then I asked it to summarize its original output for a 4th grade reading level, and it condensed that information to about 50 words. Gen AI can also help diversify class readings. Instead of the whole class completing the same reading, we can quickly produce texts on a variety of topics. Students can then choose which ones they'd like to read. Of course, we need to fact check all the readings first to make sure that AI isn't providing incorrect information. Rather than sort through large quantities of authentic materials for a good fit, I'm able to navigate through these materials much more quickly and effectively to provide choices for students. Still, research is needed to determine the efficacy of AI in customizing instruction. As you can see from these examples, the output these chatbots produce is not perfect, and there are several limitations to what generative AI can do for our creative process. Initial research into the intersection of creativity and generative AI is showing mixed results and suggests that generative AI may best be used as a sounding board for creative work.
Other research shows there can be a loss of productivity when people first start engaging with Gen AI in the workplace. Teachers should therefore evaluate for themselves whether Gen AI saves time in their planning.
Generative AI doesn't need to handle large class sizes, grade papers, or go home and do laundry. And as a result, we might explore how AI software might be used to increase practice opportunities for our students when our time to deliver individualized attention is limited.
One of the struggles I have when teaching speaking is getting my students to practice outside of class. In the past, I have used programs with voice recording capabilities, such as VoiceThread, for students to have conversations in which I would provide individual feedback. But now, voice bots or chatbots that allow for spoken input and output are improving in quality and are easier to access. My students can have a conversation with a voice bot and get immediate and specific feedback in a low-stress environment. Even better, there are bots designed specifically to help learners practice their English, such as LangoTalk and Andy. Teachers and their students can also create a customized bot based on their own needs for ongoing practice. Of course, voice bots are not perfect. Both my own students and recent research have found that they are not always correct or make sense, and some students prefer human interactions. Still, voice bots, text-based chatbots, or multimodal bots that allow text, speech, image, and video input open the door to more practice opportunities. Another reason to try out Gen AI for practice is that the mere act of having students use a technology, even occasionally, has been shown to increase motivation, especially when students see value in it for their education.
Beyond traditional practice opportunities, we can use technology as a play space for students to use language in new and creative ways. For example, students can ask a generative AI program to help them write a science fiction story. They can prompt the chatbot to provide characters and build out a story several pages long. Students can then enhance the material in different ways. They can draw, turn it into a comic. They can select story characters and record a radio drama, or they can enhance the story with additional dialogue. Through this activity, I don't expect AI to teach my students reading, but rather for students to engage in a sustained way with the language, opening the door to opportunities for vocabulary acquisition and additional language practice. Here we should pause to remember that interaction with AI doesn't mean effective learning. There's a belief that AI is going to do the teaching, and that's not the case. Instead, it creates a space for students to do things with language. Educators themselves need to carefully construct the learning activities that surround student engagement with AI. A key aspect of adopting AI for classroom use is the creation of AI policies that make clear what is and isn't acceptable use of artificial intelligence in the classroom, in student work, and in administrative tasks. While some institutions may already have policies in place, in many contexts, this is very much a work in progress, and teachers may need to develop their own classroom policies in the interim. The first step is to clearly define generative AI. Agree on what software is or isn't generative AI. Does grammar correction software, such as Grammarly, or translation software, such as Google Translate, fall under AI? Or is it only software that responds to the user the way a human would, such as Apple Siri or OpenAI's ChatGPT? Another important point is that AI guidelines do not need to be standalone policies. Instead, they can be integrated into existing policies. Institutions can create a standard statement that teachers can add to the academic integrity section in their core syllabi, stating expectations of students on the use of AI and the consequences of unauthorized use. In this same vein, the institution or teacher might update their plagiarism policies with specific guidelines for citing AI-created work in their assignments. Under the umbrella of privacy policies, it's also important to define what personally identifiable information should never be entered into AI software. For example, before using AI software for grading assistance, should names be removed from student assignments? Should student age be a factor? Many technology policies ban children under 13 from using them, so avoid sharing information on younger children with AI applications. In developing these policies with administrators and instructors, it can also be insightful to involve students. Understand how and when students look to AI as a tool to assist them. The more educators are aware of how students use AI software, the more effectively they can help students understand what is and isn't acceptable use of AI, which can be reflected in an institution's overall policy or in a classroom policy. One last ethical concern to take into account is the environmental impact of using generative AI applications. Because of their reliance on such vast data sets, generative AI systems require vast amounts of energy to run, as well as water to produce electricity and cool down computer processors running the software. As institutions, teachers, and other independent actors decide how to implement policies surrounding AI use, governments and corporations will need to make some tough decisions on how to downgrade this technology's ecological footprint. While research around AI and its uses in English language education are still in their infancy, a few patterns have started to emerge. We can't expect AI to teach, but we can use it to support us in materials creation and differentiation, as well as to bolster language practice. Our job as educators is to create learning opportunities around the technology and to intentionally plan for how generative AI should be used in a classroom setting.